Hey, Lewis, good to see you.
Nice to be here.
So a couple of things. We just want to get kicked off, and we got a couple easy questions for you. Hopefully,
Okay.
nothing too
Some
complicated.
softballs. I
yeah,
like that.
yeah, good. So, love to hear about your role and your responsibility with IBM.
Okay.
Kind of your background and what it is that you do today.
Okay. Well, I have the privilege of serving as a storyteller and evangelist. Actually, I've changed it to storyteller and enthusiast. I think the evangelism part's over now. I think people get most of what we're talking about.
I'm kind of a big fan of the word activist.
Activist is good too. Anything that's going to get people to do something different.
There you go.
And so the topic that I spend most time with is social smarter work. It's the blend of a lot of what we do, but it's a people-centric thing. It's about people and their behavior and how they work. And we at IBM fortunately have technologies and stuff to support that, but it's extremely important for us to get that message to the people and about behavior, culture, transformative power of actually doing things differently.
So it's kind of cool and probably for a lot of people scratch their head. IBM.
Yeah.
And yet right there,
Yeah.
Frankly, I think you used the word technology once, but you used a lot of these other words that
Yeah.
had nothing to do with technology. A big one being people.
Yeah.
And with that said, and with your responsibilities, talk about that connection between IBM,
Yeah.
as we may think of IBM,
Yeah.
and what you do and where all this stuff that's non-technical resides and how all that comes together.
Yeah, well, it's actually a blessing and a challenge. I mean, International Business Machines doesn't actually shout out, we're in the people business, but actually we are, and that's what we've been doing for years. What I think we've done is we've helped organizations and corporations actually expand what they do, and this is actually something I talk about often. Is the technology that we have built, some of the things we've done, like the ATM, is a patent of ours. We've actually removed people from the equation. We actually took the teller out of the equation so that banks could scale, right? And we've done the same thing when voice response systems and so forth for phones. We've taken the receptionist away. And people have done that in order to grow their business, but in doing so, they've removed the people because the people were not part of that digital experience. Mm-hmm. Fortunately now, though, we are able to inject people back into that. So the social smarter stuff that we do right now is actually allowing us to take that personal element, that relationship contact that you and I use on a daily basis when we're selling or promoting or even just sharing with people, right? Putting that back into the equation of business that is still scalable, still can be global, and it's not hindered by the technology, but it's actually enhanced by it.
So from as specific as you can get, maybe, what's the difference between social media and social business?
Okay. Yes, it can be confusing. Social media, I feel, is the practice that people use of getting a message out there of some kind. And a lot of the social tools that we think about when we hear social, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those properties and places are where people actually promote their message. And because they're social, you can actually have a conversation. Social business is actually how do you apply those same tools to your organization and to your company in a way that not only helps you externally but also internally. How does that help you with your production flow? How does that help you in your organization process? How do you gather ideas from the people on the shop floor? We're listening to our customers, but are we listening to our employees? And do they have a voice that we can listen to, and maybe a voice that we can have a family conversation versus having them have to use public social networks in order to communicate to their management. So, I think the social business is just a different way of working for companies.
Okay, so another thing we're hearing a lot about is this term systems of engagement.
Yeah.
Versus, I guess, systems of record, right? So Jeffrey Moore has talked a lot about that around the world. Has a new book. We're leveraging some of that in our conversations.
Yeah.
Can you explain systems of engagement and how that correlates to what we know about systems of record?
Yeah, actually, what I think is interesting is we come up with a lot of terms and act like they're new, and they're not. I mean, even the word social and what we do and how we deal with people, it's a part of our business forever. In fact, I was sharing yesterday, we got social, mobile, cloud, and analytics. And we've been doing those things since caveman days. Maybe not cloud, but definitely being secure, being mobile. All those things have been important to us. Systems of engagement, I think, is just a tagline that helps us to identify the importance of having a connected conversation or having a connectivity with someone, and it can be called engagement. And it's more than just a transaction. It's something that is mutually beneficial. It's a pact between the two of us. A transaction is a record. We did business. Engagement is we are related to one another for interest or reasons or business purposes, and there's transactions that may flow in that, but the engagement is the bigger picture. It's the container, right, in which we do transactions.
And why is all this happening?
Yeah.
I mean, why are we? It's 2014 June.
Yeah.
Why is this thing happening? And is it bigger than a breadbasket? Is it the next era? What's the big deal? And is it a big deal?
Yeah, it's a big deal, but not because any vendor has made it a big deal. We like to think of us leading the market and helping drive market space. This is a big deal because this is the way people are beginning to communicate. This is the way people expect things to happen. The consumer space has taken it, run with it, and now it's time for the business people to actually follow that. It's a big deal because it's driving back the importance of people in organizations. Again, I keep using the word people, but that's what I center around. We look at our numbers on our budget sheet and what are we paying for, and it's people. We ask executives, so tell me, if all your data, and let's say this building that you're in right now, and all your data disappeared tonight when you went home, and your people came back tomorrow, but everything was gone, could you rebuild your business? And most executives say, yeah, it'd be a little difficult, but we could do that. If you take that same equation and say, this building stands, the data's here, but none of your people, including yourself, ever return, will this business die? And the absolute example is, yeah, it's going to die, okay? Because it's the people that make it the business. So bringing focus back on that and reminding us as executives and as managers that the smartest thing in our organization, the thing in which we can leverage the most, is our people. And so how do you do that?
Yeah, and I guess this is going to probably sound like a no-duh question with hopefully pretty matter-of-fact answer, but I hear and we talk a lot about ideas, where this is going. Some would call these theoreticals, abstract, hopes, wishes, dreams, right? That we could have this, the best of, right? What we get in the consumer world now in corporate America. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff. But I assume there's actually technology. There is software. There is a platform. Yeah. There's tools that can actually do this stuff and help you do this stuff without it being like herding cats.
A lot of people think of social as kind of a happenstance. We just put it out there and hopefully something's going to happen. I equate it to the difference between a vitamin and an aspirin. A lot of people think that a vitamin is something that's good for you, it'll make you feel better, and I could probably talk you into taking it for a period of time, but after a while it'll sit on your shelf, much like a lot of my vitamins sit there on the shelf until they're outdated. But if you have a pain, if you have a headache and I offer you an aspirin, you'll take it. And as long as you have the pain, you'll continue to take the aspirin. This whole social thing is an aspirin. It actually solves business problems. And so that's, I think, the value in it. The benefit is it has vitamin qualities. I mean, your people are more engaged, they feel more appreciated, and all those things, those soft things that we feel are soft, are actually where you get a lot of your return on investment. You'll get it through the business piece. I mean, you will engage faster with your customers. You'll retain people longer. You'll do processes more quickly. You'll spend less time doing the stuff that you think is required for you to do, meetings and conference calls and status things. You'll do so much less of that and spend more time doing the things you enjoy doing, being with a customer or spending time working on a problem. This innovative ideas, giving people time to actually be creative.
And again, sounds cool.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
The benefits, the why. Yeah. Back to the what. So is there actually? Can you give me a name?
Yeah.
Is there a product that you use at IBM to do this?
Yeah, there is. It's a product that's on the market called Connections. It's been on the market for a period of time. In fact, Gartner has us in the top five, in the top position for the last 5 years.
Okay.
It's used by 66% of the Fortune 100 companies that do the social business with us. It's a remarkable thing. The interesting thing is it came out of IBM as what we do and how we work. Someone once said IBM doesn't produce products, just things escape from the lab on occasion. And I believe that because having been an IBMer for about 10 years now, I've always used these tools. Within the company, we could find experts, we could post questions, we could find answers, we could share each other's files, we could share ideas and bounce things off of people that we hardly ever knew, just because of this happenstance thing. It happened that we converged with this social thing that came through the marketplace in a time that we said, let's just make this available to our customers and to people that are interested. And as a result, IBM Connections was born.
So social obviously is a big word, big concept, big driver. The other big one out there today is mobile.
Yeah.
Talk to us about two things. A, mobile, your definition, and then B, the intersection of mobile and social and how that comes together.
Right. Well, what's interesting is the concept of mobile, again, back to where are we when we work. Mobility has become an issue not just of where I work, but when I work. I work a lot with HR executives, and they're beginning to tell us that some other people do their best work when they're not at the office and when they're away from the office or when they're in the drive. In fact, Jason Fried has a book called Rework, and he's asked people, where do you do your best work? And a lot of them say, in the car on the way to work or on the bus or on the train. And rarely is it between 9 and 5 when they're sitting at their desk. And as a result, they have these inspirational times, or they have these ideas, or they have these actionable things they want to do. And so that's where mobility comes in. The ability to do this from an iPhone, an iPad, an Android device, whatever that's available to you, allows you to take action when the action's needed, to capture the idea when the idea is created, and make that available to a broad audience. So that's where mobility, I think, has its play. The other aspect, just other than like employees, is your consumers and the people you're trying to build that engagement with. You've got to be where they are. And most of them aren't necessarily sitting in front of a PC at a desk. They're about. They like you. They think of something about your company, or they have some impression of what you're doing, and they'll capture that usually through a mobile device. And you have to be ready to respond, to engage them at that point. So that's where the social and the mobile stuff kind of intermixes. People will engage with you. Sometimes they'll use social tools. Sometimes they'll use things like your website or places like of engagement. But the two are intertwined right now.
Well, what's interesting is I absolutely agree. But if you actually think about it from a traditional standpoint, from a traditional social, right? Yeah. I'm being friendly. We're talking together. We're in the same room. You're at a party. You're collaborating with your colleagues in the organization. And yet mobile means I can't be stationary. I can't really be social if I'm mobile. So the traditional perspective is they're kind of diametrically opposed. But what's cool is now, because technology, and because we all like mobile, we all like social, they didn't really get along before. But now that they get along, and now that's not only neat, but it's also a challenge, right, of bringing those two things together and then tying it to the back-end company systems that are already in place, those systems of record. Yeah,
and I think part of that is the borderlessness, the fact that we don't have borders any longer. Instead of going to an office to work, now we can work anywhere. I was reminded of this, and it's been almost 10 years ago. My son was home from school. He was ill, but he wasn't. It was because of being a contagious piece, but he wasn't feeling bad, and so he was at home. I walked by his room because I work from home a lot, and I hear him in there shouting. He's shouting orders: move, turn, up, back. I'm thinking, what is he doing? And I open the door, and he's got a headset on, and he's playing some game, some role-playing game, which I asked him about later, and he said, "Well, Dad, just playing this game." And I said, "But it's 11 o'clock. Aren't your friends in school?" And he said, "Not in Germany." Which triggered me right in the moment that says, this guy doesn't even know that borders exist. And that's the worker that we have coming in now. There are no questions you can't ask. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to engage when I want to engage. And that's where mobility just kind of helps us facilitate that engagement.
So you talked about the younger generation, right? The millennials, if you will. And they go all the way up to, I think, 28 years old. So it's kind of the gap of 16 to 28. We know statistically that a lot of the senior level executives are retiring and moving on. Again, it's 2014. With the millennials coming in, the executives that have been around from the mainframe days and all that kind of stuff, what's this stuff look like in 2020, let alone 2025?
Yeah, it's really hard to predict. One of the things that we often hear is people will say, well, I don't think we're ready for social yet. And when companies tell me that, usually I just have to look around a little bit to see that the person speaking may not be ready, but the company's probably ready. We are at a period of time. You mentioned 2020. It may take us that long, but it's a period of time in which we're going to have this question. We have a mature workforce and we have a young workforce, and you and I both sit here. We both believe this, and we're not the young workforce, so it's doable, right? But for a period of time, we're going to have to engage with this conversation. I believe that obviously I have to find another job in about 5 or 6 years, or move on to something else, because the telling of the story and the getting people enthusiastic about it is going to pass. Because a social business is just going to be the way you do business. It's just going to be business.
Yeah,
right?
Well, we saw that with e-business, right? And I would argue that I think all of us in the social mobile realm, we almost don't want to label it.
Yeah.
We just want it to be because it is.
It is.
So if you look at my kids and the young workforce today, the things that we still name, they're just kind of part of their DNA, man. Right? They're not even naming it.
Right.
Let alone doing things that we take for granted. Email. Right. Just the whole context and the contextual environment's changing. Yeah. So do you think this is going to be? I mean, is it going to be cataclysmic? Are we talking about revolutionary, evolutionary? I mean, how do you think this all kind of transpires and I agree, the next 5 to 10 years? Yeah. How do we all get along?
We're all looking at it as if it's an event, and it's not an event. It's just an evolution that's taking place. Mm-hmm. I often quote this guy, Conrad Gessner, and he made this comment about information getting out of hand. There's just too much of it, and it's going to be overwhelming. And it was in 1550, and he was speaking about books. Okay, we had that conversation then. We had the conversation when internet was first associated with business, with email was first associated with business. I speak to people today who says, there's no way that we could possibly do business without email. But if I take them back 10 years, they would be saying there's no way I can do business without a fax machine. In fact, I have one myself. It's got to be close to my PC, right? And yet today, the way we communicate, there was an event that happened. It was just a transition. We moved to a better way of doing business. I think the transition is going to continue to play, and the shift's going to continue to move, and we're going to behave more socially. And that's just natural. That's just what's going to happen. So I don't think it's a trigger. I don't think it's this cataclysmic thing that's on the horizon. I think it's just a way, as I told people, I said, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's just a matter of when.
Well, and I think it's also not an either or, it's an and both. Yes, and that's where people need to kind of calm down and make peace with this. Yeah. The old expression, throwing the baby out the bathwater, you're not doing that. So systems of record, and I speak important. For Jeffrey Moore, critical, Absolutely. Right? We need that stuff. Yeah. Now we're layering on systems of engagement to basically give both. Yeah. It's an and both, not an either or scenario.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. One without the other would just be frustrating for anyone. I have a son who's very creative. I have an older daughter who's fairly structured. Together, it's a beautiful thing, right? When they work together. But if you take any one of them, my son may need structure, and my daughter may need some creativity. And it's the same thing with this systems of records and systems of engagement. Engagement is a little more fluid. Records are a little more structured. Together, it's a 1 and 1 plus equals 3 thing.
So to that point, what about for who? So I know for a fact, and we're in Indianapolis, Indiana, doing this conversation. But you said 60% of Fortune 100 using connections and doing this. Is this based on bigger guys with more money? Is it based on? I mean, can everybody do this? What's the hang up? Is it the type of company, manufacturing, distribution, retail? Yeah. Where's the gotchas, and why isn't this being adapted, regardless of size, demographics, budget, all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah. A lot of the big companies have done it because they've been able to take the leap without, in some cases, but in some cases without necessarily understanding it. They're large enough that they can say, we're going to take this out on a trial and try this. The ones who have been wildly successful are the ones who understand that this is a cultural issue. So regardless of size, you mentioned small businesses or small organizations, regardless of size, if you have a culture that says we believe people are the center of what we do, and we think that you as an individual are important, and your opinion matters, your perceptions matter, those are things that we want to hear about, and you have an idea, we want to know that. Those companies that take that, whether you're 10 people or whether you're 10,000 or 100,000 people, those are the companies that are going to be successful and actually lead us. The ones who are resisting that are saying, some people are more important than others, or this is the way we're going to structure things, and this is a top-down kind of thing, those are the ones that are going to be challenged because they're going to lose to the more innovative creatures that are coming up below them, and those can be small organizations. We've seen small organizations threaten larger organizations constantly.
Do you think this is an adapt, adopt, or perish scenario?
Yeah, I think it is. I truly believe it's that important. And again, it's something you can't ignore. I do a thing on ROI, and there's really ROIs that you can achieve, and we help companies understand that. But I think some of the ROIs that we should get to are things like, what's the risk of ignoring this? The return of integrity to my company, the recognition of individuals. All those ROIs are things that may be hard to put a dollar figure on, but it actually does bring in business revenue.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt that there's qualifiable and quantifiable.
Absolutely.
ROI and all that stuff. So absolutely agree with everything you're saying. I'm a big fan of this isn't an IT thing per se, right? This is cultural. Yep. This is a new paradigm. The presidents, the business leaders, they all have to get it.
Right.
The consumerization of IT, right? I believe, and I know you do as well.
Yeah.
That said, if you're a IT manager, if you're a CIO, somebody that's in charge of making sure that all of these things that are happening are still secure.
Yep.
Their fiduciary, their governance, all those things that IT. So if there's a crowd full of IT managers in the room and they got a bunch of questions and are worried, and what do you say to these guys?
Well, I think it's important for them to understand that they have a place at the table. It may not be at the head of the table, but they have a very important supportive role of this. I could tell my company, we want to be engaging, we want to hear your ideas, but if there's no mechanism for which you to do that, then it will fail. And that's why companies who've not adopted social, they're finding their people being social, and they're using consumer tools to do it because they found a solution that happened to be around IT or around what the company provided, and these things are popping up, and the IT managers are faced with, how do I secure this? How do I lock this down? How do I actually maintain this and have compliance? So I think from an IT manager, the opportunities that they have are the same things, the impact that they had for those who've been around for a while, like myself. Now, I remember introducing email into an organization, and the value that brought to an organization, in many cases careers that were made off of doing that for a company. You get to do that again. You have the opportunity to look at this and say, this is, if I just dig my heels in and say I don't understand this, I don't want to do this, you will find yourself left behind. So I say step up to the table, promote this, encourage it. Don't try to lead it, again, because it's a cultural thing, but be there and be supportive. Get those people engaged. If you've got management that maybe they don't get it, maybe the executives don't get it, maybe you as IT do see the vision, help them.
And the cool thing is that people may or may not know is you don't have to jump all in at one time. You can go in phases and stages. But to your point, the key is, and this is where I think IBM comes in, I'm just going to say it, is instead of having this chaos of BYO everything and doing whatever you want to go do and leaving the reservation and not playing ball, right? If you're an employee and you're in a company, you should have rules. You should have policy.
Absolutely.
You should have systems and standards.
Right.
But who says you can't have your cake and eat it too? And that's what's fun and cool and neat here is that as long as the IT guys are there in charge of making sure that infrastructure is sound and using especially IBM and the consumer, in this case their consumer, the employees can have it on their mobile devices, have it social, have it the way that they want to interact it. Everybody's kind of happy.
Everybody wins. And for an IT manager, I think this is actually an opportunity for them to, as I said, not just lead, but also secure their position in the company in the future. Because what will happen is if you're not, I tell people, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? And if you're not helping out with this, the end arounds are going to take place. The sales organization is going to go out and use some tool that they can get for free on the cloud, which is going to cause some security issues. And you're going to have marketing over here experimenting with some social media tools that having a conversation that you're not a part of. And all of a sudden, you're going to be held responsible for putting these things back together, which is one of the reasons why at IBM we're proud to say not only do we believe in this, I mean, we live this. This is the way we do business. And you can imagine IBM has all the concerns about security and risk and compliance. And we, amazingly enough, a lot of our larger customers are in things like financial markets that are heavily regulated, heavily standardized, and yet they can exist and they can be social in that. So, I tell our IT managers, embrace this. This is really a great opportunity to move.
And your point, and I've seen it, there's enough proof.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's proof everywhere that you can be social, you can be mobile, and you can also be secure and buttoned down and run it on a single platform that makes the IT guys and the compliance guys and everybody happy, right? There's proof all over the world in government agencies, small companies, big companies. So why? Why is it that there's still so many organizations out there that fold their arms, put on their pouty faces and say, I'm not doing it?
I think because there's so many organizations out there that haven't embraced it. And because of that, there's so many organizations out there that have disparate things going all over, and there's just rumors and problems rampant. And so you can look over your shoulder and you can find a lot of people are having problems with this. So it's easy to sit back and go and say, well, we're going to have problems too. Instead of looking for those leaders, those people like Cemex and TD Bank and some of these other customers of ours who've jumped in and said, I'm going social, right? And they've enhanced their business and done, and IT is looking at this going, this is a blessing. Now we actually can take the measures, we can take the metrics, we actually can not just control it, but we can actually manage what's going on here. We don't have the sprawl of the old content farms that we used to have, and we don't have this conversations happening all over the place. We actually have this in a nice container. And not only that, with IBM, you've got analytics, you've got the ability to measure and monitor and understand where the conversation is going. Everyone in the organization wins. IT actually looks like a hero when this thing comes out because they've got their arms wrapped around it.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you again. It still is a bit puzzling.
It is.
How so many people, for a whole host of reasons, right? Back to, it's all about people.
It's about
and yet there's a bunch of people out there that just don't choose not to sort of, at least partially, step in, lean in, as the expression is very popular today.
Yeah. Well, we don't like to change. Change is hard.
Change is hard.
I think it's Daniel Pink talks about the different ages that we're in, and the information age was a group of people that you and I have dealt with a lot, where things are black and white and it's factual and you tend to focus and change is difficult. And then you have a conceptual age, which is this new age that we're in, where people tend to empathize, they like stories, they blend things, that type of thing. So, and that's the reason I'm a storyteller, because that's the people that really get this. The ones who tend to focus and look at the small little details and they bring those out as big concerns, need to understand that we're watching all those things, we're helping you control those things as well, but the real benefit is for the conceptual age and what's going to happen with people who are more fluid and bringing up ideas that you don't have to go through a process necessarily.
Well, and what's disappointing is, and we do know this, and if people did their homework, the facts are out there.
Absolutely.
Nobody says it's an either or. It's an and both. You can have your cake and eat it too, as the expression goes. And so obviously the hope to overcome that frustration is that at a minimum, those people in positions of authority, those people in positions of fiduciary responsibility to ensure that their company is here in 2025, let alone 2020, right, are at least stepping forward. And hopefully through guys like you, what IBM's doing, the events that we're having, and how we're moving forward will help be a part of it. In closing, any if you could wave a magic wand or take out an ad in the Wall Street Journal or whatever, People Magazine, I don't know, given what you do, what you see, what would be that message that you'd like to convey out there to the market?
I think the message is social's nothing new. Get over it and get on with it. I mean, we just have to understand this is the way of doing business. Don't be scared of it. Embrace it. And it's healthy. And if you don't understand it, that's okay. We can help you understand it. People like yourself can come in and help them understand the change management process of what's going to happen. We can guide you through it. But it's eventual. It's going to happen. The longer you when I spend time with companies and I see them hesitating, the thing that goes through my mind is every day the ideas that are lost or the opportunities that they don't have because they're not doing this yet. And I almost feel a sense of urgency, like, I need to bring them to this belief and to this behavior because they'll achieve immediate benefit from it. And I feel like it's just wasted. We have too much potential. We have too much that we need to do smart. That spending time puzzling over this and thinking about it and worrying about it, get over it.
Well, and not only that, but what frustrates me and drives me, because I've seen it. I've been in those rooms where the light bulb's gone off. I've been in those rooms where the over my dead bodies turn into I can't believe I didn't know and get this. And so we don't have the budgets to, again, run a commercial at the start of the World Cup and say, hey, folks, get your head around this. So, this is almost missional, right?
It is.
Dare I say even a ministry, if you will, behind a purpose-driven pursuit that what we're talking about isn't just theoretical, that the drivers, the benefits, the whys are all there, but what makes it really cool, the what's there, the how's there, and the who's there. We've got all that. Now it's up to people to step up, get over themselves if they're in the way, lead, follower, get out of the way.
Love it.
Back to people. Unfortunately, the good and the bad is we got all these people out there, and that's what kind of gets me as well, is you just want to go, how do I snap my fingers, and especially in this age of instant gratification,
you want to do that.
Get up to get it, but as you know, my dad's got a great expression: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I tell you,
but you put some salt. You can put salt
in
the
like
oats,
you and me, sometimes you want to kind of
you put salt in the oats, which is what we want to do. Is just show them how it can help, and they'll get thirsty for it.
Well said. So, Louis, thanks for the time today. I have a favor. I'm going to put you on the spot.
All right.
So let's imagine that the world's watching.
Okay.
I mean, they may be, but let's just imagine the world.
You get the followers, I don't. But
right.
That's okay.
Okay. Well, I'll pass mine to you. That's a good thing about being social and mobile.
That's right.
We can work together and collaborative and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
The world's watching.
Okay.
You're obviously an evangelist, an activist, passionate, but you really have seen real world why. Not just, this isn't just wishful thinking that sounds good. So the world's watching, and you have just a little bit of time to say, hey, this is why, this is what. Give it a go if you wouldn't mind. Put me on the spot, and what would you tell the world?
I think what I would tell the world is that we have precious resources at our command, and they're people. And one of the things we can't do is to not leverage their full potential. And I think that what we're talking about here with the social and being a smarter workforce, using things like mobility and other tools to engage your customers, engage your people, I think that's a requirement of us. That's just as being a good citizen and being conscious of the resources at hand. I think we need to leverage and utilize people's skills as much as possible. Otherwise, it's not a smarter planet, and that's what we're looking for, something smart.
I agree. For me, from a business standpoint, I go back to fiduciary responsibility, governance. What frustrates me, I'm just going to say it, is when I hear people say, I don't want to do it. Because that means while we're all into people, that means now you're being a selfish person. And I hate to say the old cliche, there's no I in team. But what really is frustrating is when I hear senior level executives say, I don't want to do this. I just want to go, well, I didn't know it was about you. I didn't know you paid yourself every 2 weeks and all of these employees work for you. So get over yourself, do the right thing, do your homework, study it. Nobody's telling you to necessarily believe what you and I are saying. Do your homework, study, see what's going on, but do it for the company.
Absolutely.
And not just the company today. Because you are you don't own those seats, right? You're kind of renting them. You're being paid to sit in them. Who's going to be in that seat in 2020?
Exactly.
Who's going to be running that thing in 2025? So instead of kicking the can down the street and leaving that problem to them, start planting seeds at least under which the shades of the tree these guys will sit, so to speak. Start doing things. Stick your toe in the water. But my plea to everybody would be, get over yourself. Don't say, I don't want to, unless you are thoroughly convinced and you know that the entire organization doesn't want to. And if that's the case, fine. Knock yourself out. Good luck to you, company. But chances are, I think you'll be surprised that there's a lot of people who at least want to start understanding better, initiate some things around mobile and social, start getting things moving in that direction. Because what I do with a lot of people is write up again 2020 or 2025 on the whiteboard and say, how's it look? And inevitably, everybody does say, well, it doesn't look like it does today. And the next question is, well, what are you doing about it? And don't just say, hey, we're going cloud, we're going SaaS, we're going managed service. That's kind of, okay, those are table stakes. Now it's time to, what are you doing strategically? And if you don't have an answer for mobile and social, you should. Even if that answer is, we're not doing it. Well, then explain it. So my hope would be, at a minimum, that those people who say, I don't want to, get out of the way.
Absolutely.
Step up, do the right thing. It's not about you, it's about your company, your employees, and to your point, all those other people, not just you as one person.
Exactly. Awesome. There's one piece I don't know that we've covered well, and you mentioned the social stuff being the cloud stuff being table stakes. I think it's important that that companies understand that often the barriers to entry into this in the past has been the fact of, gee, I've got to invest in resources, I've got to invest in skills, I've got to invest in a lot of different infrastructure within my organization in order to even facilitate this kind of thing in a way that's secure and scalable and so forth. And now with cloud being such an important part, and secure cloud, the things that IBM can bring to you, that actually takes that whole fear, that whole question, concerns that are in the back of your mind, actually takes them out of play. And so you can actually say, you know what, you mentioned earlier about, at one point about, step in, put your foot in the water, right? Well, for some of the past engagement systems, to put your foot in the water is a huge step. You've got to build up infrastructure. Yep. You've got to have a priesthood of programmers. You've got to have all these people ready and skilled and ready to go. Yep. And now it's I can test this. I can actually go and pilot this. I can do this in a way that doesn't require me to invest a lot. And it's one of those things where I can, as you said, begin to learn, and begin to understand the way my business moves and breathes, and can do it in a fashion that doesn't overtax my already overtaxed, IT infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Great point. It's affordable.
Yep, absolutely.
And can be done in the right time frame, and it's all about expectations, right? If you set the right expectations, both in terms of why you're looking to go there, as well as how quick you're going to get there, as well as who's involved, right? If you don't set the right expectations, that's when frustration gets in, and failure, and concerns, and all that stuff. So, so much of the tried and true good things that we, all the business books, everything that doesn't go away.
No,
right?
No.
Process, systems,
it's all there.
Programmatic, tactical, operational things. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there. We're not saying get rid of it. No. We're saying complement it.
Yeah, make it
add
better.
to it. Make it better.
Absolutely.
And both versus either or, right?
Yep.
Good stuff. Thanks, Louis.